In Thai boxing, you're told and taught not to grimace in pain. If someone catches you with a good shot, you do not fucking wince. So how am I supposed to fucking show that in life? In 2013, after years of just being diligent, I got an opportunity to fight for, my dream, and that was to win an Irish title, and that was like the be all and end all. That's what I wanted to do. It was like I had this disease that I had no idea how to explain it to anybody.
The things that I would generally have found joy in slowly slipped away.
Like I had to go even harder to prove these people wrong. I had to make more sacrifices, get more sleep, lift more weights.
It was something for me that was so surreal because I was unaware what anxiety and depression was.
I guess I thought I was the only one with these feelings. I guess I thought that...
That's a burden. I don't want to be the person on the other end of the phone crying to you.
So I felt enormous guilt about feeling bad.
I don't know if it's shame, but it is a bit of embarrassment, and it is a bit of fear of how people are going to talk about you.
My name is Conor O'Keefe, and I'm a 29-year-old ultramarathon runner from Cork. I grew up in a small suburb. Everybody knew each other, and it was a really tight-knit community. And when I was 5 years old, I moved to the Glen, which was an area with more socio-economic issues, where you had to really grow up, or you'd get your Premier League stickers taken off you fairly quick. And really that was a time in my life that formed a lot of things for me that I was gonna bring into my future. And one of those things was that violence might be a way of settling things a bit quicker. I started Thai boxing. I think I just turned 17 and I went in through the door. It became my entire life.
My name is Ray Canellan. I'm 26 years of age from Athlone in County Westmeath. All up along I played, under 14s, 16s, minors. And then played senior when I think I maybe just turned 18 or still 17. That's when I first kind of started playing senior football at Westmeath. It's just always been Ray Canellan, the footballer. It was never the academic or anything like that. It was always Ray Canellan. He's your man who plays football. So that was, I suppose, it became part of kind of who I am.
My name's Lorcan McMullen. I'm from Belfast. I grew up playing hurling in South Belfast. I played through school and I played for County Down growing up, played minors, and then I went to UCD. And I joined Kilmacud Crokes in Dublin. I wanted to see where I could take things. I always had aspirations to play at the highest level I could. So when I was 24, I joined the Dublin senior hurling team. And I was playing the best that I've ever played in my life.
My name is Hugh Mulligan. I'm 21 years old. I come from Stillorgan in Dublin. I always wrote kind of poetry and stuff on the sides. I started off in sixth year, a little red book I had. And I was a deputy head boy, whatever you want to call it. So they gave me a little red book. You were supposed to write what each class and each person's supposed to be doing that day. I used it to write little raps and verses and poems. I, like most kids, did the Leaving Cert, left school with no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do a course that I didn't feel comfortable doing. I wasn't going to do it for the sake of it. That wasn't me. I wanted to do something that I loved. The one thing I loved at the time was writing poetry, journaling and writing music. It was more so just a hobby or a pastime, not taken seriously. In my teenage to early adulthood, saw a lot of friends struggling. And that was really hard because I was someone who would take their pain on my shoulders and try and help. And the more I kept in my head, the worse it got, I think. And that's when anxiety kind of started around 18. And that was just kind of from stress, from relationships, friendships, and school. So it started off very small, but slowly started to build up and got worse and worse.
I was feeling pretty good going into 6th year of school, but then as soon as school started, everything just got worse and worse. I was given antidepressants. It just felt like it was paving over cracks for me. It didn't really solve anything. I was acting out, I was getting sent off. Like, I must get sent off like 4 or 5 times that year. I just had all this like emotion and frustration and anger kind of inside me, and I just couldn't stand it. Like, I didn't really tell anyone.
The age of 17 to about 23, for the next 6 years, my whole life was engulfed in Thai boxing, and it was a very dangerous and tentative relationship as well, because the more I let my identity become Thai boxing, the more I was susceptible to the changing conditions. And it really mirrored how my whole life had been up until that point, just turbulent. The usual energy that I was filled with just wasn't there anymore. I think people thought that it was attention seeking, you know, and Jesus, I even thought so. And I was suffering, you know, I was fucking suffering from mental health difficulties, and I was going, look at your man. Do you know what I mean? Talking about this type of shit.
When I was playing for Dublin, I would read like messages, like forum sites and comments. They would all be saying like, he's too small to compete at this level, or he'll never make it because he's not big enough or whatever. And this just like, this affirmed in my head what I was thinking and everyone else was thinking. Then I thought I had to go even harder. Like, I had to go even harder to prove these people wrong.
In Thai boxing, you're told and taught not to grimace in pain. If someone catches you with a good shot, you do not fucking wince. So how am I supposed to fucking show that in life? In 2013, after years of just being diligent, I got an opportunity to fight for, you know, my dream, and that was to win an Irish title, and that was like the be all and end all. That's what I wanted to do. In the last minute of the last round, I was knocked unconscious. It broke me in a way that I don't think that, like, I think it was similar to like losing somebody that was close to you, because I was grieving. I was grieving after I lost that fight. I was grieving the loss of Thai boxing because I never had the same passion or relationship with it ever again. I started to lean on things that never had a place in my life ever before that. Like, as I said, like, I barely drank. You know, throughout my early 20s, I might have drank about 10 times, I'd say, in total. You don't have the thing that you're focusing on anymore there to pull you back into the gym and back into that kind of structured way of life. You're like, do you know what? I'm gonna go fucking at it. I think I was in self-destruct mode. The lowest point in my life, I can pinpoint it. I was out drinking, laughing, joking. One next minute, boom. My mood just changes. Not even like a thought enters my head or anything. My mood just changes, and I just become super silent. And I just want to get out of there, like, as quick as I possibly can. And I remember walking down from where the bar was, and it was really near the quays of the river. And I remember standing on the bridge and just standing there for 45 minutes. It was a really cold night, actually. And just thinking, yeah, I could actually just throw myself into this river now and it would all be done. and be finished. We wouldn't have to deal with this constant up and down and tiring way of life.
You can't really get away from the voice that's in your head. It's constantly there. And when it's constantly negative, it's so fucking tiring. Like it's unbelievable how much it wears you down. You just don't get a break, and you're pulling your hair out trying to get rid of it. Sometimes you'd be thinking, oh, like if I just kill myself here, I don't have to listen to that anymore. At an age where like things are changing for you anyway, and you're probably a little bit more kind of irritable as a teenager. I kind of had 4 like serious bereavements that I just didn't know how to handle, and I felt that it slowly slipped into a mood where the length of time I spent happy and the length of time I spent sad just started to kind of reverse, and I just realized that I was kind of beating myself up a lot more. And probably the most serious thing that kind of was the catalyst and everything was I found out that my dad had attempted suicide. I remember I was driving home from my grandparents' house in Ballinasloe, and I finally asked Mum again. I was like, what happened, Dad? Like, you said you'd tell me when I got older, like what actually happened? And she told me that depression really got a hold of him, and for years he was battling with it. I remember like I made her pull over the car and just physically started just retching. It was such a shock to my system. That was kind of like the strongest person in my life. I just realized was, you know, why did he do that? Like, did he not want to see his kids? And I started to kind of almost victimize it and think, you know, if that happened to him, like what about me now? I'm not feeling good, and like, is this what's going to happen to me? Like, is this what happens? And I suppose I had fears around that, and that just kind of ignited this kind of fire, bit of a self-destructive kind of fire in me.
I think a lot of it was with my dad. He played at a really high level, and I felt like I had to play for Dublin to make him proud. I became a bit tunnel visioned, and I just tightened the screw as tight as I could possibly make it, and I continued on this path of obsession. Then in January of last year, I lost a relationship that was really important to me, and I didn't want to lose. I hadn't been there, I hadn't been present in my life. I was so ashamed of what I'd done and the way I'd treated people and neglected people in my life. I went through a period of not sleeping sort of for a couple of months, anything more than like 20 minutes at a time. And we were going down to play Kilkenny in Nolan Park, and the stadium was full. I was sitting on the bench. I was just thinking, please don't get called. With about 20 minutes to go in the game, I got called to go on, and I just felt like I'm so broken here. Like I'm so not okay on the inside. Like I couldn't see the pitch, never mind the ball. I went to go to training, Dublin training, the Tuesday from the Sunday. The strength and conditioning coach came up to me like 10 minutes later and said, "Are you okay?" Because I was 4 kilos down, and he told me to go into the gym and take it easy. Then I just went into the change room, and I just felt like I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't hold back the tears, and like I was just so scared of someone walking in and like seeing me. I was so highly strung. Because of that tension, I would take that out on other people. I would take that out in the relationships that were closest to me. I hated myself. I hated the way I'd behaved. I didn't think that I was good enough for the relationships in my life. I thought I had to achieve more or do more in order to be worthy.
I fucking hate myself, but I love living. That went into my most recent EP, in Dublin's Burning. That is mad. Unbeknownst to me, I was trying to help a handful of people, when at the same time I could barely help myself, so that's what really broke me down. With that, I started turning to alcohol as a dependency, and I became dependent on it. I spent my New Year's Eve getting brought home by the guards at the lowest point of my life. They found me in Dundrum car park just as a broken man, and I think that's when my family really realised how bad it was to be arrested by the guards because your friends called the guards on you because they were so afraid of what you could do to yourself. Unfortunately, me starting again was waking up that morning and trying to harm myself. I remember just trashing my room. I went into a panic and just broke down. It's an out-of-body experience when you're going through this, because your body and your mind is just in like fight or flight mode. Because you're constantly in your brain thinking of ways to hurt yourself. But everything around you just doesn't feel real. Because you're numb to everything around you, and these menial tasks like putting bread in the toaster and pressing down was just crazy to me. I was broken down to the rawest form of a human, where if it was a smile, it was fake. I rarely laughed. I rarely showed true sides of human emotion.
Like, there was some just dark nights of just being alone with your thoughts, and that's when like the panic attacks really started again. I remember calling up a suicide helpline. I rang the phone and a woman answered, and I just hung up straight away, and I was like, oh, like, what am I doing? Like, what are you thinking here? Like, the ideas in your head that if I wasn't here, I wouldn't feel like this anymore. Do you know? Like sometimes you're like, the only way I can get out of my own head is to shut it up. At that stage, I fucking hated myself. I hated the voice that was in my head. It was constantly just annoying me. So I was trying to, I suppose, numb that a little bit in a weird way, trying to take control over something, because I felt like everything else in my life was just completely out of my control. Like, I had no control over my self-thought, I had no control over my voice in my head.
I think I was in self-destruct mode, where it was just, I didn't give a shit anymore about what was going to happen in my life. Very passively, passively thinking about suicide, where I was like thinking, do you know what, it doesn't really matter if I don't wake up, and that's a dangerous way to live. And that's where I found myself for a number of years.
And I think that was the problem with me. I kept putting it on, and the worse it got, the more stressed I got and the more anxious I got, the more the depression started to seep in.
I just needed to be anywhere else. And I felt like I couldn't be alone anymore.
I think when it came to suicide, the biggest problem was more my family's, and my mum and dad in particular. What this stuff does to your family is just unbelievable. The stress, like no one loves you as much in the world as your parents do, and no one ever will. Like, my parents have done everything for me, and to see their child like struggle so much, and the helplessness that they would have felt. It's the easy way out for me in a way. Like, I do this one act and I'm gone. But everyone else has to, like, parents would have had to plan my funeral. Like, my mum and dad would have had to, my brothers would have carried my body, like, and never seen me again. I mean, imagine it was always a case of I wish Ray was there.
It's a thing that we don't think about a lot because of how intense and dark this situation is. It makes everyone feel like nothing. It makes you feel like absolutely nothing. It's not worth being here, you know, it's weird. After the event happened, up until that climax when I was found and arrested, I didn't really talk about it to anyone. It was such new feelings for me that I didn't know what to do. But once I realised how severe it was, and the severity of the situation when I ended up trying to harm myself, I was like, there's no point taking this for granted, you need to talk about this.
I had a fear of letting people know these things. It sounds crazy, but I thought that they wouldn't want to be like friends with me anymore if I said these things out loud. I'd never in my life looked at what was going on inside. I had zero self-awareness. I didn't think I was insecure. Looking back now, it's crazy because I was so unhappy. It was always the next thing, always the next objective to try and cover up so that I could be validated in other people's eyes.
I don't think I was able to be honest with myself. So I couldn't be honest with anybody else. I couldn't be honest with myself and say, you're actually basing your whole fucking life on how other people think about you. You know that, don't you? It's a bitter pill to swallow. Trying to be honest with yourself about that is huge. I could never be fucking honest with anybody else about it because I wasn't even able to face up to the facts. I had to change everything, really. I had to change my whole internal self, really, to be honest, because in general I was my own worst enemy and my own biggest critic. I was so fucking hard on myself all the time for everything, you know. Nothing was good enough in my life for me.
Time and the pen, like a pen for me did so much, being able to write down my thoughts, my emotions. I had a journal, it was handed to me when I was younger. Tossed to the side, you know, you'd be like, oh, no hard man writes down their feelings, what are you on about? No, until I actually realised that's the best thing for me to do. I got my journal out and I started writing down everything. Write down every emotion, everything that went on through the day, things I love, things I hate. I met up with a friend of mine called Matthew Harris, and he kind of had the same idea as me with music. It was just something we did for fun. We would meet up on weekends and we would make music together.
I definitely feel like you've probably said the same, that like music has helped you grow in a huge way.
100%.
In a huge way.
Remember how hard I was taking it? I was also very unstable at the time. Do you remember I would be like,
Yeah.
I need to do this. I need to be making music, because without it, I felt futile. There was no reason to be here because that was all I had. You were checking up on me and I'd do the same, but I think in the back of your mind, you were worried. And you were like, Shia, do you think you're going to do something to yourself? Like, do you think that something's going to happen? I said no. And like a week later, I ended up doing something stupid. Do you know what I mean? And that was it. I think meeting up one-on-one is something that's underrated, I think. You know, when lads meet especially, it's that herd mentality. And we join forces, like who's coming out. I think we should take more focus on individually meeting people, because that's what I respect about this guy. And it allowed me to open up more, because there was no way of avoiding it, you know. I think individually meeting a single person is a great way of letting them open up. It also lets you maybe get something out of yourself as well.
I definitely feel like people respond well to vulnerability from yourself. So if you're like willing to be vulnerable yourself, people will respond well to that and feel comfortable to do it themselves. So you should never really go into a conversation being like, oh, I just want to help this person, so you tell me everything about what's going on and then, you know, I'll offer my advice. It's like, okay, well, here's what I'm struggling with. You can tell me if you want what you're struggling with or not. It's up to you.
Myself and my girlfriend sit down on a log every morning and drink coffee, right? And it's a log that's facing out into some of the most beautiful rolling hills in Wicklow. We check in with each other. How are you going? How's your life going? It's like when I share what I have going on for me with Mel, and when she shares what she has going on for her with me, it kind of makes you feel like there's somebody on your team, you know. And I think that's really important, especially nowadays when we're separated from so many people. Our families, my family's 300 kilometres away. Hers is 3,000 kilometres away. We don't have that same connection that we would have had. If both of you guys know that communication is good, you know that it's open, you know that what you said will not be met with judgment, but will be met with understanding, and I think you can have it in any setting. So this is really important for us to bring it back every day. To just ground zero,
It's like an act, isn't it, of self-love, showing up for yourself on the log,
Absolutely.
every morning, really, is how I kind of also see it, so.
For me, and for most young men, the strongest male figure in their life is their father, and they look up to him and think, superhero dad kind of thing, nothing can happen to him. So I suppose he just helped me wrap my head around where he was at. He didn't try and sugarcoat what it was that happened. We're all comfortable with, we understand why and how, and I suppose it's helped us avoid mistakes he's made too.
I found when I was younger, I used to bottle everything up. I found it very difficult to speak to people about any difficulties I was having. You sort of have this air of invincibility. But I do think that there's more awareness.
Having the confidence that you can go to someone with something that you might, I don't know, be bothering you, could be just really small, just having that outlet with your mates is it's just very important. Just being open and showing that it might feel daunting, and before you talk to someone, you might get that lump in your throat before you start speaking, but I think we've all, I suppose, learned to kind of just bite the bullet and stuff, and if you need to talk about something, you do, and I think it helps everyone, really. I needed to learn how to handle my own emotions and how I control them. And that's, I suppose, when I spoke to people about recognising the triggers and what it was that was sparking me to feel the way I was feeling.
I guess I thought I was the only one with these feelings. When I realised that everyone feels these sort of ways and that it wasn't just me, I started to get comfortable in talking about these things.
So anyway, we're talking away there like mad, do you know what I mean?
It's the log.
It's the log.
log.
Dr. Phil, bye. We're like Dr. Phil here. Yeah.
Get yourself a log.
Yeah,
That's
get
what you
yourself a
need.
log. People see the documentary and I was like, we're buying a fucking log. We're buying a fucking log and you're sitting down on it every morning with me. You. Oh, God. I really felt like at any moment in time, if I was just struck down, if I was just struck down, I wouldn't care. I did not care. And it really was the only thing that kind of took me off that bridge that night was, thinking about the people that loved me, and I didn't love myself. But I felt like I couldn't do it to them. I couldn't do it to them.
My mum was one of the people that I completely took for granted and completely neglected and treated her so badly. She went through cancer and I was never there. I was just focused on what I was doing. I was just focused on achieving my goals in life. I never asked her how she was. I never asked her how she was coping.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. How's your swim today?
Oh, it was fabulous.
And it's so good to have that relationship back, and even that in itself is so worth it compared to all the rest of the stuff. I reached out to one of my friends. I distinctly remember thinking like, okay, I'm gonna tell him one or two of the embarrassing things about me. He and I couldn't believe it when he said it, but he said, oh yeah, I felt like that before. When I realized that everyone feels these sort of ways, then I just felt like a massive release. That allowed me to just go a bit easier on myself and just be patient with myself and just have a bit of compassion. It's taken some time, but I'm finally okay in myself. When I go back to playing hurling, I will have a healthier relationship with the sport, and I won't use it for avoiding stuff that I'm going through in my life.
I remember by the time I was 21, I felt that I was over everything. And one day sticks out to me, where I was in college in Galway at the time. It was really sunny, November, winter morning, just cold, but you could feel that little bit of heat coming from the sun. I just remember I started just laughing and smiling to myself, and I was like, geez, I'm actually I've been so fucking happy for so long here. And I just remember being so grateful for what I kind of gone through, no matter how shit I felt at the time, that I'm so happy I never acted on anything, and there's no finality to it. I didn't end everything when I was at its worst, because if I had, the stuff I'd have missed out on it's just not worth it. There's times I still look back now and I'm just I'm happy with what happened in a way, because it's given me just such an outlook on life that I wouldn't have without it. So yeah, that's the biggest thing now, is just the gratitude I get from I suppose experiencing that stuff and coming out the far side of it, because not many people are in a position where they do come out the far side, and I still got my dad, and by all rights I shouldn't, and we're blessed to have him. For anyone who watches or sees this and they're in that headspace where they think my only way out is suicide, I understand that you're so swallowed up in this and it feels like it's just constant and never ending, but you can come out of it so much better, and you look back on it and be 10 times the person that you ever were before.
I don't think I have any regrets about it. I think every single stage that I had in my life has led me to where I am right now. So I don't really wish that I went any other way. Because I got out of it with my life, and because everybody that I was, hanging around with at the time, escape with their lives, and they are kind of making you through and seeing personal discoveries, that I'm just thankful for that, and it all led me to where I am now.
Music was the only thing I was passionate about. For me, it was just a dream. Yeah, I started off writing as a form of therapy, so becoming a rapper was it was nonsense to me, it didn't actually make any sense, but it was just little verses and poems and stuff. Then that progressed into writing full songs. For me, it was just using the music as the medium for expressing my feelings. So when I got my therapy from that, I could release it to the world. We released our first track. It was a spoken word piece because I really wanted to address things clearly. And a lot of that for me was the anxiety and depression, which I speak about in the song. When we released that, it really resonated with people. District Magazine did a short article about it, and that kind of blew up from there. And then it fueled me to keep writing, keep doing better. And eventually we got our first show. That was probably one of the most special moments of my life, because this was about 6 months after I tried to harm myself, and subsequently went to Vincent's Hospital about it. 6 months later, I'm on stage performing to 250 of my friends and family, and I'm happy, and I'm safe, and I'm well. It's just incredible how you can go from the lowest point in your life to the highest in a matter of months. And for me, when I got on stage, that's when I knew I wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to express my feelings on stage to people as much as I can. The cool thing about it is that I was writing for me, and I was writing to get across my pain, my trauma. But the funny thing about it is that people are experiencing the exact same things, and they can relate to the exact same things you're talking about. And it's funny because I'm there writing about how lonely I am and no one can understand, when that kid on the other end of the speaker, the other end of the earphone, is going through the exact same thing.
The more people you can get sharing their stories, no matter how small your story might be, you might think it's insignificant, it might have a huge impact because it might relate to someone directly and they could be like, this is really exactly how I feel right now.
It doesn't have to be the way it is. It doesn't have to be that men have to appear strong all the time, because once you realize that the secret that they're not, no one is. Inside we're all flawed, and inside we're all thinking the same things. If you're vulnerable and honest and you show all of your true self, people will be more inclined to respond in the same way, and that's how you build trust and meaningful relationships.
We good. I wanted to be the happy kid, but unfortunately, that wasn't true. And I was the sad kid for a while, and you know I am today. Sometimes I have my sad days. I was so fixated on being that person I wanted to be that I forgot what I was going through.
Do you think young men need to learn more about how to communicate with each other?
Definitely, yeah. And I think we need to do it without a point in our hand as well, you know.
Being honest with just accepting, like, if you're feeling crap, like, it's okay, and like once you start to feel low, acknowledge it immediately with both yourself and then open up to others. Tell like a full story, like in all the detail you want to, is so important.
You are good enough in yourself, and what you don't realize is when you start to believe that you're okay on your own with those flaws, then that's when life starts to get amazing.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do when the party's over? You know what I mean? The party's over, it's just you, boy, you know? So you have to be your own party, you know? You have to be your own fucking party.
Yeah, boy.
Big smoke rises in the distance. Concrete jungle with a smile, this is our existence. Cup of tea, stay a while, choose hardship over the path of this resistance. Heart sick, leaving time with persistence. I'm perceiving others leaving for the streets. Hearts heaving, can't sleep, but how could you? Others kids teething at your feet. New Reeboks complete the style. Meanwhile, the state of mind is futile.
Would you welcome, please, Malachy featuring Matthew Harris.
Old pair of earphones, you would lose it when accompanied by the music. New perspective affects his mood. Sometimes ejected, but winners lose. Kept his problems to his business. Wash him down with a pint of Guinness. Watch him let go. So many rumbles, only enough for a Fredo. He had dreams of a moth and got a butterfly, but butterflies die. What's the story, not the plot? What's the love solidify? He's just living for a laugh. Couple thousand homicides are looking for a gaff. On the day that changes, they remind Mrs. Mars.
And the changes, yes, they go too fast. Old faces and places through the hourglass and the chances, romances in a distance.
My name is Hugh Mulligan.
My name is Ray Connellan.
My name is Conor O'Keefe.
My name is Lorcan McMullen, and I'm fine.